Hey everybody, what we're going to do today is create a sky texture. I do have a 3D printer going about a foot away from my head, so you might hear some robot stuff. I'm not a robot, don't worry. Or maybe that's what robots say to tell you people that you're not a robot. Anyways, what we're going to do is create this sky texture, and to be able to do that, make sure that you both have the images that are going to be found inside of the shared folder, and we also have a Maya file that we can check out our repeating texture. So things we got to do first here is look at our starter images that are provided for you, and in here we have a number of skies, and so they're of different levels of complexity here. So I'll use this one as my demo here. I'm going to bring this into Photoshop and we'll get that going. Make sure that you're also, as you do this, reading along by our steps here. So the first step that we want us to do is to create a new image that is going to be 1024 by 1024. So this is going to be kind of our template that we'll use for this scene. So if we create that, I'm going to close that other one. I'm going to save this now. So save as, and for this project, I will go into my MVCC Spring, and I'm going to put that inside of my digital apps, and I'll make a new folder. Make sure everything's nice and organized, so we'll call this Sky assignment. Okay, so I have that. Let me hit open. And what do I need to name this as? Well, inside of our steps it says last name underscore sky texture. So for me, that's going to be, your name is not my last name, so make sure you're putting your last name right there. So save that. Okay, we have this all set, ready to go, and we need to bring in our image that we downloaded. So if I go to File, Open, and I go to where I downloaded everything, so under my downloads, date, that's going to be Sky 08, and let's open that one up. Okay. Now I need to bring this into my sky texture PSD. So what I'm going to end up doing is Control A, Control C. So Control A was the select all, Control C is the copy. Now in Photoshop, Control V, we've pasted it. We'll call this sky color. And this is way bigger of an image than in our Photoshop file that's set up for it. So let's take advantage of that. If I hit Control T, I can scale and transform my image. And what I want to do is basically take advantage of the amount of data that's in the scene for that size. So I'm going to go and maybe scale it down to being, let's say, about that size. It's okay if I go over that because I'm actually going to use some masks. So I'm going to hit enter on here. And I'm also going to make sure that, if you notice, it may be outside of the boundary. So if I click with the control key held down, so left click on this, you'll notice that the little dots that are moving are beyond this line. That means that this image is bigger than my Photoshop scene that I've set up. So the way to fix that, we can just easily use our marquee selection and just drag across the entire image and then go image crop. We'll do that just like this. And what that's going to end up doing is preventing this from being outside the border. You'll notice that now all those little moving lines are actually along the edges, so that's good. Now I have this going on. I'm going to create a mask for this, and I'm going to duplicate it. Okay, so how did I do that? Let me go back. So for creating a mask, it's just a matter of pressing this button when you have the layer selected. So when I do that, I have this mask set up. If I right click on my layer anywhere over, not on the text but somewhere around here, if I duplicate that layer, I can now have a copy of that, and that's what I need. Now I want this to look like a repeating texture, and to do that I want the edges to repeat. Right now it's not going to do that. To do that, we're going to take advantage of offsetting our texture so that way the middle becomes the edges. And we know the middle actually is repeating because it's connected in there. So if we offset that so it's on the edges, naturally we're going to have no seam if we connect these things. So we'll see what I mean when I add this to Maya in a bit here. So let me go into filter. I'm going to go into other, and then I'm going to go into offset. Now half of 1024 by 1024 is 512, and that's going to give me the edges right down the middle of my scene. So that's really good. What I'm going to do with this is go into my map, or sorry, my mask. I'm going to use my brush tool. So to get to your brush tool, it's just pressing the B key, and you'll notice it's going to give me black or white. I'm in the mask, so it's by default going to give me a black and white selection. And I want something like a soft, round pressure brush, and that's going to allow for me to paint out some things with some soft edges. If I didn't use something like that and I used a hard edge, you'll notice as I paint, it's very obvious where those edges are. So we're going to change this to soft, round, and I'm going to start painting out this scene. Now, remember, I am now in my alpha, or my mask. I am not inside of the image. I'm not painting color. I'm only painting the mask. So with black, what that's doing, if I turn off this layer underneath it, it's actually hiding anything that's black. And so with this other image behind it, it's actually referencing that other one. So it's preventing the completely image just to turn into white. And it also allows for me to kind of try to match this up better, because we're using an image that we are referencing behind it. So we're just going around and trying to clean this up so it looks organic and it looks like these clouds actually would be connected in some way. Now you'll notice there's a bit of a gradient where it goes from a light blue to, or a dark blue to a light blue, and that's going to be just a number of just clever cleanups that's going to help that from showing up. Now right now when I do this, you're going to notice, you're going to see some spots, like this is going to be obvious over here. You got kind of this white circle that's starting to show up. So if we slowly paint this, we want to make sure that we're changing the size of our brush. And an easy way to do that, there's a couple different ways to do that. Oops. What we should do, and the easiest one is to use our brackets. So if we bracket down, or close bracket, or open bracket, that's going to make it small. Bracket up, or open bracket, sorry, close bracket, let me repeat. Open bracket makes it small. Pressing the close bracket makes it bigger. So by doing this, I can start to change the size of my brush as I go around. So I'm not really just getting in there on that same scale. I can get in around some of these micro details or these clouds, so I'm not painting all of it out. If you don't like some of it, remember to undo, it's Control-Alt-Z. Alright, we're getting there. I'm going to go and just keep painting pieces out, and as we uncover other clouds in the background, that's okay. We just want to see if we can get the seam to disappear. And so you might have to go over here more, you might have to go on the other side. That's all going to be dependent on what our texture is doing. Ignore the text, it doesn't matter, we'll be getting rid of that anyways. Okay. Now you'll notice in this image we have a UFO. And by a UFO, it's probably just a plane. So we can get rid of that thing by either painting it out like this, or we can use this tool right here. This is our, whoop, let me just zoom that out. So this is going to be, usually the the video shows up here. Alright, it doesn't want to show up. So this is going to be a repair tool. So if we click on this and then we just press this button, we should be able to erase that out. If it doesn't want to, oops, sorry, I need to make sure I'm on the color and not on my alpha when I'm doing, or my matte. Okay, there it goes. We just fixed that up. Okay. So we're getting there. I'm noticing though, this looks terrible. That just looks like a mistake. So ways around that, if we go back into our our mask, we can go into here and with the brush tool turn this to white and then paint it back in. What this is going to paint in for us is the white on the map. So you can see I'm just switching that, and I hit the X key to go back to the black. And that's not terrible. This does take some time. Now also my opacity is set to 100. If I drop that down while I'm painting, it'll give me a little bit more of a smoother transition between these two. So that may be something that's worth trying. Just trying to blend these two together as much as possible so it doesn't look artificial and there's no seams. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Down here, kind of try and paint that out too. Okay. Now always make sure you're doing an evaluation at 100% of the size of the image. Don't feel like, oh, if I get this small, I might have to tweak this part. Always make sure you're doing a top-down look for your final critique to make sure that you're really able to see any of the major issues. It's very easy to get myopic, and by myopic I mean you'll zoom in and focus on little details that may not even be noticeable to someone playing your game or watching your movie, and so you don't want to spend time on areas that are just not worth your while in tweaking. Now, I don't mean being lazy. What I'm trying to tell you is that there's a time for large, obvious things to fix, and then for little tiny tweaks that clean up. That's something that you shouldn't be spending an overall like day on. These are little tiny touch-ups. So now I'm noticing I'm getting a repetition right here and right there, because I painted or I hid or unhid a spot. So what I'm going to do is just keep painting this one in. Okay. I like this. There's some spots here. I got this little spot here. It's kind of blurry, and I got that spot that's a little bit blurry. I can try to crispen that up again by going into my brush tool, and I'm going to change this brush to being something more like maybe a wet media brush. So we'll open this one up. Let's see what this one does. This is Kyle's Paint Box brush, and we're going to go to a low strength, and we're also going to just subtly, ooh, okay, that's a little too intense. So we're going to reduce our size of the brush first, and our strength, we want to knock that down even further, maybe 8%. I'm going to paint over this now, and why I'm trying this one out is because it's giving me, as you can see, a little bit of texture to this. So why is that really cool? I'm going to go back to that again to this one. This texture, again, drop that opacity before we start to paint, can kind of give me that illusion of it being sort of like a fluffy cloud. And that's kind of, you know, that's the whole point, right? We're painting clouds. So by using a textured brush on this, we're fixing some stuff. I think that's pretty good. Now, again, I know where that issue is, but you're probably, as a person who's not looking for these errors, someone that's watching a movie, if this is a background piece, you're not going to notice that. And that's that whole reason why I say don't be super myopic on little errors. All right, I like this. So what do I need to do? Well, first, let's go ahead and save this. So File, Save. Okay, that's going to save our PSD again. So now we have this as our PSD. What we need to do now is select both of these and hit Control G. This group is going to be our sky texture, or actually, sorry, so let's call it sky color. Now that we have that, we are going to add another mask, and this mask is going to kind of be a fade from the top to the bottom for color, so that way we can have like a nice blue it goes to and a nice kind of like purple on the bottom. So to do that, what I need to add here is I'm going to go into my layer, and I'm going to New Fill Layer Gradient. We'll call that Gradient Fill. Okay. I'm going to hit OK now because I know it may not be 100% what I want yet, but I just want to make sure that this is in there. So this gradient's in there, and I can always double click on this because it's not a destructive form of editing. I can actually go back in here and change this as I go, which is extremely helpful. So now that I have all that going, what we need to do is change the color on that. So to do that, we'll click on our gradient. And how did I get here? I just double clicked on the little image of the gradient here. So double click, we have our gradient, click on that. I'm going to select this right here, go to color, and then I'm going to sample. So you see this eyedropper come out. I'm going to sample maybe like a purple that would match similar to what I'm dealing with down here. Now I haven't faded anything else out yet, so I'm not sure if that's correct, but I'm going to leave that alone. Now I'm going to go to this one. This color needs to be sampled from up here. I'll hit OK, and let's see what this is doing. Right now the opacity is set to 0. I need this to be 100%. Now we have this visible. And then this one, let's see what this one's doing. That's 100% as well. Okay, I'm going to hit OK. Now that I have this, let's take the sky color and we'll make sure that we are in our mask. I'm going to press the B key, making sure I'm using just a nice soft brush. And I'm going to increase my size. So I'm going to increase it to maybe about this big. And I'm going to make sure that I'm painting with black right here. So remember, what that's going to do, that's going to allow for whatever this is to be invisible wherever that goes. So if I click here, having shift held down, and then click across the way. So shift is still held down. So from here to there, nothing's happening. Hold on one second. Okay. So this mask should be masking all of that. Let's see if this is just being cranky. Okay, let's increase that to 100% opacity. There we go. So if that's not noticing like it's changing, I'm going to go back to before I had that. Okay. If that's not noticing like anything's changing when you're painting, check out what your flow or your opacity is. Right now the opacity is good, but it was set to really low earlier. So again, left click with shift held down and click across the way. There we go. And then from down here we'll do the same thing. So left click with shift held down and go across. Now we still see that text. We'll just go across a couple more times. Okay. That's looking pretty good. That transition's maybe a little bit in need of some additional painting, so we can just go across there. I like that. Now we can kind of just get that gradient right to where it should be. So what I'm going to go into is here. I'm going to double click on my gradient, and sample. See if I can get a color that's closer to that gradient I'm using. That's better for the top. I like that. And then for the bottom one, I'm going to do that again. Oops, sorry for the beeps at you. This is killing my ears too. Okay, so I'm going to go into the sample, and we'll go with... yeah, let's say that's okay. Okay. Now that I have that, let's zoom in a little bit. I think I see an error. And I do. Right here. So let's fix that. We just got to go in here. Again, we'll use our brush tool. We'll make sure that it's set to black first and see if that goes away. And yep, it is. Okay. I like this. Alright, we're going to save this out. I'm also noticing by zooming out to this size, this is lighter right here than right over there. So I'm just very quickly going to go in and paint out this with black, and I'm going to make sure my opacity is down to maybe 48% or around 50%. Actually even lower than that. So let's go maybe 12. What I want to do is just kind of click around here to make it so that doesn't seem as obvious of a color change right there. Okay. Let's say this is what I want. Let's test it. Let's just tweak that. Okay. Let's test this. So file, save as. What we're going to do is a PNG. Save it. Okay. And we're also going to do just save to make sure we save our PSD. So make sure you're saving your PSD. In Maya, let's link in this file. So we're going to go into here, So our hypershade is open. I've provided you with the sky shader. So what you need to do inside of hypershade, there's the sky shader. We're just going to open this up, go to file, and link this in. So let's go into, that was inside of my MV stuff, so we're going to go inside of here. And wrong class, digital apps for the animator. We're going to go in here, open this one up, hit OK, and let's see what this did. Okay. I'm seeing some seams. Let's see with the flat lighting if that does it. Yes. So there's something going on here. And again, I'm going to just test a couple of things. Mesh display soften. Okay. We have some errors. You can see that right along that spot right there. So we need to see what that's doing. An easy way to fix this at this point is we can go into File, Open. We'll open up our sky texture. This is just the PNG. We're going to do a filter offset. Okay. This is where our seam is happening. Now, to fix that, if we don't see it right away happening in here, which for whatever reason that isn't displaying, and we can try a couple things too with this. If we select across all of this and do an offset or image crop, we can see if that fixes it. So File, Save, and then File, Save As, PNG. Okay, it's telling me I can't save because I have it open right here. Let's close this one first. File, Save As, PNG. I've got that one. I'm going to save it. Yes. Okay. Let's go back inside of Maya. And let's see if we can relink that and see if that fixes it. Okay. No. So there is still an error there. Okay. So what we're going to do, we'll just go File, Open. We'll open up the sky texture. Filter offset, so we can see that error right there. We're going to duplicate this. And now that we have this duplicated, what we're going to do is use that repair tool again. We're going to go and increase the size of this a little bit. Just go up the seam. Now you don't want to go crazy with this tool. If you do that, you'll notice that the more you work it, the more little errors and artifacts it can give. And you also want to make sure that you are using a large enough size where it's not going to give you any major artifacts by seeing small little lines. You can see over here, I don't like what it did there. So I'm going to go back to the beginning before I started messing with stuff. Okay. And what I'll do is start to gradually use that tool right here. And here. Now remember, don't just start doing this. You're going to have all sorts of things happening. So just go in, make sure you're touching up those seams without destroying everything. And a large enough of a brush too. Don't use a small brush because it's not going to sample enough of an area. So the nice part is this tool also allows for me to get rid of anything that I don't like. So if I don't like this little spot here, I can just click on that and drag that out. And then this part right here, yes, there is a clear little seam that's going on that. And that's okay. There's a couple different ways that we can change that. I think we're going to use our patch tool. So I'm going to just click and drag across this spot. I have this selection. I'm going to drag over. And by dragging over and sampling another spot, it tries to sample all that up. Sometimes it works great. Other times this patch tool can be a little bit frustrating. That actually did work out really well this time. So again, let me show you how I did that. We didn't probably need this much sampling area first. So again, with this patch tool selected, I'm going to click and drag across that area. And you should be able to see there's this little bit of a scuff mark or a blur that's going on right there. So this moving, I'm going to move it over here, let go, and then it's gone. So you select across that area, you make a lasso, and then drag that selection over onto something you want to sample. And it's making this. So I'm going to do a filter offset again. I'm going to do File, Save, and this is going to save this as a PNG. And now, in Maya, let's refresh this texture. Now I don't have auto refresh on right now. We're just going to have to manually select that one. I'm going to hit open, and you should see now that that seems pretty good. There's some little spots I can see a little bit of that I'd want to tweak right there, where it's a little bit of heavy spacing there. But let's look at this from perspective. So you'll notice that I have this little tiny camera there. So by perspective, I mean the camera. Let's say that we're actually we're in a movie and this is our background. So we're not seeing any seams. This looks a little bit weird, the little dot there. But if this is a background image, the majority of this is looking pretty good. There's no more seam happening on that. So that's very nice. Again, that little spot, I'm not even sure where, oh, it's right over there. That could be easily fixed by doing another filter offset. That's that spot right there that I have. And I'm just going to use my spot healing brush and then click on that. There we go. That's a lot better. So, File, Save, PNG. And now we'll re-reference that for the 90th time. Let's go in here and select that, open, and now let's see if that little dot's gone. Yep, it's gone. So this is what we're doing for this project. Make sure when you save this for me, if you end up doing the little tweak where we bring it back as in a PNG, Control A again to select everything, Control C, and then we're going to add this to, we're going to paste it, and we're going to call this Sky Color, wow, finished. That way I can get all that, because all I want is your PSD file. Make sure everything is labeled.